afternoon, research scholars. I believe that by participating in this webinar, we are in the right place, right time, and with the right intention. Together, let us accelerate the exchange of ideas and scaling up good practices. Welcome to the fourth day workshop on research writing to publication, hosted by English Department, Jain College, Vasvi campus. Publication of research articles is as important as carrying the research itself. Good research papers make publication process simpler, allowing appropriate disseminating of the work. Research writing and publications are critical for obtaining grants, funds, and also career profession for the academicians. Research scholars, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce our speaker of the day today, Mr. Shivaram, who is going to speak on my experiments with research publications, soaring and soaring experiences. Shivaram says, after having spent 20 years as an IT professional primarily into emerging areas of cybersecurity, including data privacy and SOX regulations, through this work experience, he focused on innovation and one of the inventors for the patent issued by the United States Patent and Trademark Office on compliance, control, and framework. US patent number 7865382, and was a recipient of Accenture Inventor Award in 2011 for this invention. Congratulations, sir. He says sir is currently working as a principal compliance at BHP, a leading global resource company based in Bangalore, India. With deep interest in rationally understanding scriptures, Sir has enrolled for PhD program in the fall 2017 at Jain deemed to be University, Bangalore. And his PhD topic focuses on an area at the confluence of physical cosmology and ancient scriptures. His first published research article attempted to bring out a possible causality between the creator and the creation within the notions of Puranic scriptures. Sir has presented on interdisciplinary themes at international conferences and continue to write while he focuses on completing his thesis, which Sir intends to submit by this 2022. His papers has been published as a part of the conference proceedings edited by the Facets of Indian Culture by Indology, publisher in India. This book is available online. We wish you all the best, sir. The stage is yours now. Thank you.
Namaste, everyone. Is my voice clear enough?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Namaste, everyone, and fellow knowledge explorers. And I warmly welcome you to this session, and I'm delighted to be part of this learning process. I will try my level best to ensure that the next 90 or 120 minutes of investment of your precious time is worthwhile. I will make that attempt, but outcome is absolutely dependent on your feedback, okay? And how we will go about this session is, as it says, my experiment. So we are going to talk a lot about, what kind of, soaring or soaring experiences I've had with regard to research publication. And, probably, the kind of speakers you've had, in the last few days is, like real, academicians or professors who are established in their field. I'm an emerging scholar, and hopefully I will really try to deserve being invited to be a speaker of the session. Moving on, this is section of the researchers, for the researchers, and interestingly by a researcher. Okay, unlike other speakers, as I said, this is like one among you who is suddenly on this side. Until yesterday, I was on the other side listening. And so thanks to the Faculty of English at the Vasavi campus of Jain College, for believing in me and inviting me in to share my experiences. So before we go on, so welcome to day four, and I know that this is day four, and tomorrow you have another session on academic writing. So we are on day four. What I thought it will be important for us is to actually to recap what we did in the what you all listened to in last 3 days, and what you might hear tomorrow, and we will try to see if we can connect what is the learning process for day four today, and whether is there any connection to other 3 days and tomorrow. So today, how I've planned my session is to have some reflections, and we will talk about some basic rules of writing, and we will talk specifically about writing a topic, writing abstract, and what is the rigor that we follow in research writing, and what is the narrative that we need to build, and what is the novelty that we can demonstrate, and we will also talk about some basic metrics. And this session has been arranged to planned in such a way that there are activities for us to do after every key topic, and I suspect that we might probably need to extend by 20-25 minutes or so. So please be patient with me. And if you have any questions, please do provide in the chat. We will see how best we could take up those questions. So this is what we are doing in day four. And what you heard on day one is review of literature. And how today's discussion is going to help you in the day one. So you don't look at day one in isolation. Okay, we call that as something like we are organism as a whole, but we are made up of organs individually. So the relation between organs and organism, and what you listen in every day, in each day session, is in perspective of the whole of all the 5 days together. That's the workshops in totality. So what you heard on day one, review of literature, some of the points we discussed today, specifically on basic rules, abstract, narrative, these are all useful if you put in conjunction with what you learned on day one. Similarly, the day two, which looked at the interdisciplinarity possibilities in English literature research, you can also apply some basic rules, title, rigor as well. Day three, I think you also had a very interesting session yesterday. I'm told that this day three, which focused on publishing process, writing, and red flags, where actually today's session you can still apply. For example, some of the reflections we are going to have and some of the basic metrics that we are going to talk, you can still apply them. And tomorrow you will discuss academic writing, and almost everything what we discuss today will also be relevant tomorrow. So what I would suggest is take the dots of individual day sessions and connect them together, and then you can see the whole picture. I think that is important for us before we actually walk into the session. So far, so good. Am I clearly audible enough to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool.
You're audible.
Moving on. Sorry. Okay. Moving on. First reflection. I'm sure you all must have heard about this sloka from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. How I don't start with something which is so dear to me and which is part of my research. But I'm going to give a nice little twist in how do I interpret this sloka in the context of this workshop. This workshop is all about research writing. Okay. Any guesses how this could be relevant to our research workshop today? I am seeing anything in the chat box.
This is from the darkness going towards the knowledge, light.
Okay, anything else? Meanwhile, I think I could see that in the chat box, Mritika is saying, I need to put earphones. Sound is a bit little on the heavier end. If I walk away from the mic, am I sounding better? Or hold on, I will change my microphone.
Sir, you're not, sir, you're not audible, sir. Now it's fine.
Okay. Okay. Is it still very heavy, ma'am?
No, now it's clear, sir.
Okay. So for a moment, I'm going to stop sharing my video. Just a minute. I will fix this laptop glitch.
Yes.
I know what exactly is going on. Sorry about. Meanwhile, you please, put it in the chat box what you think is relevant with that shloka. Okay. If not, I'm going to quickly talk about that. Okay. I'm specifically interested in the third line, Mrityorma Amrutam Gamaya. Okay. Mrityu is, mortality. Amrityu, that's the opposite antonym of Mrityu, is immortality. Research writing actually is, to me, how I interpret this shloka is knowledge immortalization. For example, I am reading as part of my research a scripture which is 4,000 years old. Okay, we are talking about quoting some research papers who probably, it was written some 150 years ago, or probably we are talking about some William Shakespeare's work in our research, which is very old. Okay, so to me, this Mrityorma Amrutam Gamaya is knowledge immortalization. How do we do knowledge immortalization is by research and writing. Doing research is nothing but knowledge immortality, and write what you do research is again knowledge immortality. So we can outlive our biological age. So what we discussed today and what we present as a research finding as a paper, somebody will be reading it probably in 2100. To me, that's knowledge immortality. So we will outlive ourselves. So through research writing, let us make ourselves immortal. Okay, so that's the first reflection. The second reflection, before we start, I'm sure you must have heard about this idea of doing thought experiments. Okay, just now, Pratyayani ma'am read out, speaker's profile. Of course, I shared with her a specific profile, and for a good reason. Definitely, the reason is not to really blow my own trumpet, but the idea is actually to inspire people. If I say that, okay, I did my MSc from chemistry, but I worked in cybersecurity, but my research is completely on, literature, Sanskrit literature and scripture. So this is kind of and I would say in a very interdisciplinary thought process. So one, it inspires me to continue doing better, and I'm sure it could also be inspiring for others. From this speaker's profile, what we just heard, let us do a thought experiment. From this, we can arrive at some basic rules of writing. Okay. Rule number one, learn to think extraordinarily about ordinary things. Why I say this is, for example, this is not a speaker profile I normally like to be read. Okay. I specifically gave this because we can do this thought experiment exercise and arrive at 4 basic rules of writing. And that's why I gave this profile in the first place. But normally what profile I would normally like is because, something like, in office, we do some kind of a game. What we ask is our colleagues is to introduce themselves without talking about their profession, their education, which we often tend to do, right? So this is a small exercise that we do. So from that, I came up with this kind of an introduction. I see myself as an explorer. Through a lot of my numerous travels, this beautiful earth I explore. Through spirituality and meditation, the zenith of human potential, the mind potential I explore. And through research, the infinite knowledge I explore. That's why I started our meeting by saying, fellow explorers, fellow knowledge explorers. So this is trying to think extraordinarily about a very ordinary or a trivial thing is, introducing someone, right? It's a very trivial, ordinary thing that we do every day. So how to do it extraordinarily? I think this is the basic rule one. From this, your narrative, your novelty, everything can flow from this rule. So I think it is important for us to start developing or learning this thinking process. Rule number two, think from reader's perspective and realign. Don't write anything that people cannot understand or cannot appreciate. Okay. I was just reading a news article yesterday that I could relate to it. There was this, you can easily Google and find out. There was the Supreme Court case yesterday, and where the Supreme Court judges, made a remark saying, oh, we cannot understand anything about this High Court judgment order, for example. So what it means is that, it was, the judgment was written in so complex, using so tough words that people really could not understand that judgment in the first place. So the Supreme Court judges said, oh, we have to refer it back to the High Court from where the judgment was pronounced, because, it sounds like a Latin for us. It's incomprehensible, right? So that's simply this rule two. Before you do any writing, think from readers or listeners' perspective and realign your entire writing. Okay, rule number two. Rule number three, branching out from this. When you say think from reader's perspective, when Katyayani read out the speaker's profile, some of you might have thought, oh, this is like a very inspiring profile. Oh, some of you might have thought, oh, wow. Okay, different emotions. We as humans can have different emotions on what we heard. So one emotion could be, oh, this is very inspiring and motivational. Second emotion could be, oh, wow. Third emotion could be, oh, why this person is just blowing his own trumpet. The fourth enough of the speaker's profile. Let us get on with the session. So you could have varied reactions or emotions from your listeners, from your audience, from your reader who read your writing. If you're evoking emotions which are so varied, it is very difficult to capture the attention of your reader or listener. So what we must try to do as writers is we must lead them in the direction we want them to. Okay. What if I wrote a profile by saying, oh, I'm an explorer, I do traveling, I do this, then something more interesting than something saying patent something, right? Or you can say the same profile, you can say, talk about hobby, forget about everything, let us talk about some hobbies, for example. Okay. But you will actually dilute the direction where your reader should come into. Okay. So you need to be very clear with your writing so that you do not evoke too much of different emotions among your reader or listener. So ensure that emotion evoked by your writing is limited so that you are able to capture the direction of your reader. Number two, rule number four, the final rule, justify using the context why you think your readers should move in the direction you want them to. Okay. Otherwise, you can ask a simple question yourself: what's in it for me? Why I should move in the direction what the speaker is talking about? Okay. So you need to justify why it is important that I want my readers of my article to move in the direction I want them to. Okay. If you justify, instead of having blind followers, you will have readers who will really follow you within the domain, within the scope, and with a sharp focus that you are able to capture their attention. Okay, these are the four simple basic rules of writing. With this, we step on to the next step. And if you have any questions, you can say on slide 5. This is a question you have. You can see the slide number on your bottom right corner. Okay, you can put that in the chat box. We will revisit it as time permits. We move on from here. This is my story so far, and you will see both a good emoji and not so good soaring and soaring. Both it's like a life is a mixed bag, right? And so far, I've had an opportunity to do 6 conference presentations. Out of that, one I got rejected when I tried converting into a paper, and then 2 are in the editorial review now, which is the LO 2 LO. One is published in a journal. One, I was fortunate enough to have it as a book, as a chapter in the book. This book is recently launched last week, and one was not even eligible. And then 2 publications I attempted. One got in the first publication was in the Scopus Indexed IAFR peer-reviewed International Open Access Journal. One got rejected, and it was not rejected once; it was rejected twice by 3 different Scopus Index journals. Okay, so more than the greens and yellows, what do the red, tell us that I could share with you as an experience where you can be more careful? Okay, these are all the reasons. One of the reasons for that red is either it is out of scope. For example, out of scope could be is I'm not, doing something which is relevant to them, their audience, or either they were expecting database research, even qualitative research, database research, whereas I was producing interpretive, which is the scriptural research, so they rejected. One problem I faced was when the editorial review comments came in, I was not good enough in my review. Okay, sometimes a typical human emotion that flows around is when you see an editorial feedback, you will immediately say, "Oh, no, I don't agree with that," right? So that's a typical emotion, and if you start with that emotion, our response with a revised version may not be very good. Okay, so that's why I had faced that, and then inadequate thoroughness, where uh, it was not, meticulously reviewed, I would say. And then I probably made tall assertions or something like a passing statement without a corresponding data or proof that could prove that particular assertion. Incoherence or incomprehensibility, specifically in terms of when you write a big research article, there could be paragraphs, a lot of paragraphs. Is there a continuity between one paragraph to another paragraph? That's where I missed out in one of the rejections. One of the feedback was around that, and I had to really work on that continuity of the paragraphs. Okay, and then the third one, the final one, which is very often that we face, is inadequate adherence to style and formatting, which is the one of the the toughest one, but it is something that we have to follow. There is no choice there. Every journal might have a different way of formatting or styling. It is important that we stick to it. Okay. With this, we move on. This is the section outline, where we will talk about title and then abstract. We then go to the rigor in developing a research article, and then what is a narrative and novelty. What I will try to do is to bring a lot of the experiments, what I've done, and what kind of experiences I've gathered through each of these topics, and then I can talk about that. And I think Tushara Vincent is asking, what do you mean by not eligible? In the previous slide, I guess. What I mean by not eligible is that they said, the conference people said I was supposed to come back by a particular cutoff time, but I went back to them late. They said because of that I'm not eligible. Okay, it's a fair reason, although I don't want to really be feeling happy about it, but it is what it is, right? Okay, and then we move on. So we will start with the title slide. Okay, so learning on winning title. What did I learn? Is your title captivating? Okay, we call that appeal style. There are 3 different appeal styles you can use to to describe to get something very interesting title for your paper. Title is where we start. Okay. Appeal style, pathos, which is influenced by evoking good emotions. When you put a captivating style, for example, Welcome to Earth. That's the program I thought I will share from a Disney Hotstar program. Unfortunately, I think it prevented me from sharing that video. Welcome to Earth. Oh, what a wonderful title! You can see that Welcome to Earth is something you are telling to aliens who are visiting Earth. You are saying, "Oh, welcome to Earth." Okay, this is not a typical human reaction when we see alien movies. You will actually confront them. You will not invite them to welcome to Earth, right? So that's a very captivating title for that program. So that appeal style is called as pathos, which evoke good emotions. And then relevance to conference or journal scope. The conference will have a particular theme, and then you would have that. What is appeal style is called as a logos, which is influenced by a logical reasoning, and then reminds you something very familiar. That is what we call it as appeal style as ethos, influencing by, for example, relating to something very credible or some respect worthy, for example, and then that particular appeal style is called as ethos. That is reminds you something very familiar, right? So you feel because of ethos, you feel very attracted to the title and you want to read that particular article, for example, right? I read one article with this title. I think yesterday or day before yesterday. Just imagine the impact this title is having. Suicide risk and social media. Is it a landmine or a lifeline? Okay, it is talking about suicide risk, which is a very important for anyone that you want to do your bit to reduce that risk, and especially for people who are in psychology or psychiatry, for example. Okay, and then social media, and then you are suddenly invoking technology in it, and then you are talking about suicide rate, social media, something which is also coming to your mind is young people, and then suddenly it is now talking. Is it a landmine, which is like the negative aspect of it, or is it a lifeline, which is a positive aspect of it? Just by using just 10 words, imagine what is the kind of impact it is having. It is having now you can plan your research review of literature. You learn that on day one around this title. You can do interdisciplinary research around this title. You can do a publication process around this title. Just see the impact of it, right? When you read such articles, it is important that you note down somewhere, and you take notes so that you will keep thinking about it, reflecting on it, so that when you come up with your title, you will have something as spectacular as this. Okay. Now, what we will do is we will do a small exercise because I said my experiments. So I'm going to put out some 7 titles where I've experimented, and we are going to try and see whether is it in appeal style is pathos or logos or ethos. Okay. Uh, I know you're all English educated English literature students or scholars or experts in that. So please forgive if my pronunciations of some of the words are incorrect. Okay. My first language is not English, so it won't be as good. Okay, this is the activity 1 on title. The first one, my experiments with research publications, souring and soaring experiences, whether it is pathos, ethos, or logos. You can start typing in, and we will do the same exercise for each of these titles from 1 to 7. You can put title 1, and then you can say ethos. You can say title 4, it is pathos, whatever you feel like. You can start doing typing in. There is no right or wrong answer. I have the answers that will show up now is what I think is. So feel free. Let us make this session more interactive. And what you need to do is say 1 is ethos, for example, or you can say 2 is logos. Instead of just saying logos, ethos, just put what is the title, and then you put your, logos, pathos, ethos. That will, I think, help all of us. We are going to do this across all the 7 titles. You can have a look at the 7 titles. In December 2021, that is this title I had an opportunity to present. In July, I had another, thing on India's pursuit of excellence, UN SDG, Sustainable Development Goal 9.5, Indian, scriptures. And then there was another interesting thing on virtue ethics. One was another, which was very focused on Samaja Sudharanam, which is very Sanskrit-focused title. And then you would also see something very, interesting, creation, creator, and causality, which was the paper which got published in, the Scopus Journal. And then my first experiment, July 2018, the consciousness, that particular title is part of a chapter book recently released. I'm not seeing any interactions in the chat box. Start doing it, please. It will also help me, by the way. Doing this activity will help me. I could take a sip of water. Okay. Okay, so now we have got one responses for one. We will see what I think is. Okay. I see number 1 is actually ethos. Okay, 2 is pathos. We will see whether it is pathos. Number 2, what I think. It is both logos and pathos, number 2, in my opinion. Ethos, why I said ethos is because when I developed this title, my experiments with research publication, I thought it evoked a good emotion, my experiments with truth of Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, I thought so. That's why I said that is ethos actually, because it evoked good emotion for me. Okay, and I would say logos and pathos for number 2 is because the conference theme was around the sustainability development goal. Okay, that particular conference theme. So I said, okay, let me focus on 9.5, which is specifically on scientific research and innovation. UN SDG has 17 goals. 9 is a goal specifically around innovation, and 9.5 is specifically on scientific research and innovation. So that's why I said, okay, it is more like aligning with conference theme, and it also, something like a very, respect worthy or something. That's why I thought it's LNP. Any guesses on third, number 3? Is ethos. Somebody is saying ethos. Oh, sorry, I'm going too fast. Okay. The number 3, I think it is logos more, for a simple reason, because you might not have the background. This particular conference, which was actually an American Philosophical Association, New York chapter meeting, this conference was on ethics, East and West. Okay, so that's why it was more like an alignment to that specific conference thing. So I went with that. Okay, 4th is logos and pathos both. I think 4th is pathos for a simple reason, is that it again kind of does something more than ethos. That's why I felt it's more of a. As I said, there is no real right or wrong answer. Each of us will come with our own context, so we might have different way of thinking. Okay, but the idea of whole of activity 1 is all about trying to align your title with any of the 3 appeal types. Okay, then you will have a good head start for your paper. Okay, number 5, somebody is saying pathos and someone is saying ethos. What I think. it is actually neither. I think it is more a logos actually, because that particular conference theme was titled Samaja Sudaranam. So it was straight away relevant and aligned with the conference theme. Okay. And then to the sixth title, I see something like a logos. It is actually both logos and pathos for number six. One, it's logos because it aligned with the journal. This IAFR journal was on literature, so that's why I specifically used that word literature in my title. And also pathos. Yes, I think I agree with Parimala as well. That yes, it agreed. It aligns with pathos to me. Something more respect worthy, especially something which is very catchy in the title for me is creation and then creator, and then causality. Okay, like a CCC, something interesting. Okay, and then number seven, someone is saying pathos. It's actually both logos and pathos. Okay, so and the essence of this exercise is you put your title through this appeal style ELP, and that will help you with some idea on rest of the content. Okay. So that's this. Hope you like this activity. We will move on to the next one on abstract. Okay. As far as the abstract is concerned, in terms of the content of it, one, it should have a good flow from your title. Number one, and number two is it should not be an introduction section. Okay, so your general description should be kept to a minimum. For example, if you're writing an article on Shakespeare in English with versus Wordsworth, for example, right? I'm not an English literature student, so forgive me. Shakespearean versus Wordsworth, for example, then I don't have to explain who Shakespearean is, what Shakespearean English is in an abstract. Okay, but that's a very introductory thing. I don't have to focus on that. And if I need to still have it, I can keep it to a very minimum and instead specifically focus on what I am working on. The specific focus on my study. Okay. And in this, what you would also see a smile emoji. That means, almost everywhere where I've sent an abstract, it was accepted for conference or, as a paper. But then the next stage, some of the places where I have struggled. So title and abstract, I think I've got some smile emoji to share. Okay, that's one. So not an introduction, specific to your study. Keep it specific. Okay. The next we say as what is the lakshana or anga lakshana? What are the constituents of an abstract to be? One, we call it as purpose of the study P. And what is the current gaps in the review of literature in one sentence? That is G. And what is the significance of your present study? That is significance. And then you talk about one sentence on your methodology. For example, you can say, because I'm doing a qualitative interpretive research methodology, I'm using it. Or you can say you have used a survey questionnaire or case study. You talk about a sentence of it, and then you focus quite a bit on the key findings. Don't do any tall claims that that would probably doubt the research paper itself just by reading the abstract. So we don't want to make any tall claims and keep it very simple in our findings. And then what are the implications of this work? Okay, what next? Or future potential or significance of this study, implications of the study, right? Where it will have a value. Okay, that's another element of the content. And then have a right word choice. Okay, for example, for contrasting something, you use albeit, for example. Not everybody might even understand that, so you could use a simple yet, okay, and then few, none, whatever, right? So these are some of the word usage, right? Word choices. Neither it is, as I say, it should not be, too bad, or it should not be too good. Okay, it should be probably in between, like it's very well balanced. What we say as neither right leaning nor left leaning, but more in the center. Okay, I think that's a very important thing. And then you have title. and then you have a very laid out abstract that follows the content style, the content, the lakshana, anga lakshana of the content, okay, and then it should lead you to the apt keyword, okay. Very often than not, I pick some keywords from the title itself, okay, or I start my abstract, or I end my abstract with 2 or 3 keywords, okay. So if people, for example, if sometimes, when you complete all the process and then your research work is published, how people will actually search or even cite your work, they depend a lot on search engines, okay, which is predominantly, or more and more AI technology is being used, artificial intelligence. So that what it does is it uses the titles, abstracts, the keywords. So you don't end up with keywords which are totally different from your title or abstract. And at the same time, don't keep the keywords exactly as abstract or title. Some uniqueness in the keywords, but a lot of alignment with title and abstract. Okay, so these are some of the key points that I could share with you on the content part. Moving on. The other point is to actually we need to have some writing flexibility to fine tune the abstract content. Sometimes we send to one journal. I had that problem, right? So 3 times I sent this paper and 3 times it was rejected. The title was good, abstract was good. But somehow I messed up with the rest of the paper. But one thing I learned from that exercise, from that rejection, is that I was also flexible to change the title a little bit and also the abstract content depending on which journal I actually sent it. One was, something on Hindu philosophy, if I remember correct. One was completely in a different journal title itself. So I had to fine tune a bit of my title and then my abstract so that I reflect and I make sure that it is actually aligned with the aim or scope of the journal. Okay. And then of course read the abstracts of other papers that are published in the journal that you're targeting. And I also what I try to do is I try to understand who are the leading authors in that field, say maybe in the last 5 or 10 years, who has published quite a bit in that particular journal or a suite of journals. And then I try to look at how they write their abstract, how they put the title and keywords. That also gives me some clue in terms of how I should orient myself. Okay. And now what we will do is I have got a snapshot of 4 abstracts that I worked on, and we are going to say whether that is reflecting purpose or a gap in a literature or a significance or methodology, or is it talking about key findings, or is it really talking about implications, or it is not talking anything at all. Okay, so I have taken the liberty to put some specific snapshot so you can appreciate more. Okay, this is our first abstract. What you can start doing is you can say this particular abstract, what you're reading now, is it reflecting purpose, the significance or implications, anything? So you can say, number 1, first abstract is talking about purpose, or like this you can say. And let us do this activity. You can say something like this based on what you think. Hope you appreciate these activities and try to understand what we're trying to say. You can't see the screen? Activity 2?
We can, sir.
Yes. Okay, you can see this activity 2 where, yes, okay. Okay, maybe I will close the pop-up chat messages. Yes, okay, yes, yes. I closed the chat box. Obviously, what I suggest is please make an attempt to do this activity, and so that you will have some takeaways from this, practical takeaways from this session. We will try to pick up some speed. I think we have already spent 45 minutes. Is there anyone trying? I could not see anyone trying. Okay, I will give out the answer in terms what I think is, so that we don't spend too much time on it. Okay, what I think is, it is actually talking very clearly on purpose. Nothing else it is talking. This snapshot, it is only talking about objectives of this paper are. So there is nothing there. It is just purpose. Okay, and then this is abstract 2. If you see some of the keywords that it is talking about nature of work, research protocol, exploratory interpretation of scriptures. That is straight away methodology. Very simple. And then it is saying conclusion. Okay, point to a relational causality, etc. So this is something talking about key findings, right? So one, methodology, very clearly, and then key findings. So that's why M and F. Okay. Moving on to the third abstract. If you really look at, read this abstract, and then you can try. I could not see anyone. Please make an attempt. Mind you, this is just a snapshot of the big abstract I'm bringing in for our activity. Okay. For me, I think it is definitely reflecting the findings, and it is also reflecting the implication. Yeah, significant. I would say more on implication. I could also say significant because you're talking about yes, it is in terms of individual morality. So in that sense, yes, it is talking about the significance. Okay, and then the next abstract, the final final step in this activity 2. Here, this abstract says, unlike the general approach of viewing holy text with a religious person, authors through this work explore for thought leadership to synthesize, imports, analytical imports. And then it is also talking about, new perspectives from indigenous knowledge culture. What I think this is covering is, one, it is talking about what is the implication of this. And here, this is significant because it is saying significance because, one, I am saying the significance of this approach is important because you can understand the indigenous knowledge culture, number one. And number two is, instead of looking at it from a religious prism, you are looking at it from a different perspective. So that is why I am saying it is, significant. So try to put this test of purpose, significance, gap, etc. to your abstract. Okay. If you have missed any of them, then it is time for you to rewrite the abstract before you submit. Okay. We move on to activity 3. Which is talking about the rigor. As far as rigor is concerned, one, of course, the structure of the paper must be very clear and apt and very impactful headings, of course. And then the second is something very default. I'm sure the day 3 session must have covered this, and day 5 must also be talking about it in terms of following.
Sorry
the right
to disturb, sir. The voice is lagging.
Is it okay? Maybe what I can do is I can switch.
Well, actually, it's good for us. So sorry to interrupt. There is no voice. We can't hear you. It was actually good before. No, we are not able to hear you at all. Go to your previous setting only, sir. That was better. No, sir, you're not audible. No. Yeah, now it is a bit. No, no. Actually, you can. No, sir.
Sir, it's not audible, sir. Yeah. Now the sound was there. Now there was some sound.
You can hear me now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Perfectly.
Okay. So I don't know what's going on. Okay. Sorry for this interruption.
Sir, you could repeat that point.
Yes, I will. Just a minute. I will share the screen again. Yeah, you could see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My voice also clear. Yeah.
Yes, very clear.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Continue.
Sorry for the technical glitch. Okay, so what I was saying is we were on the second bullet point. It is important to follow the format and template, including bibliography, whether APA or MLA. But I think majority of journals do follow APA with in-text citation. So I try to follow that. Okay, which is exactly what we need to do is once we find out which journal we want to try out, we need to exactly follow the template style that they are giving us. Okay. And then another important learning that I had that I could share with you is definitely avoid making marketing statements or unjustifiable comments. Okay. Which is like more of an opinion, less of facts. Actually, it should be exactly opposite of it. And you will see towards the last part of the slides where I've actually copied and pasted the actual feedback I've received. This is from that particular feedback. That editorial feedback said there is a lot of marketing statements in your article, and there are a lot of opinions than facts. Okay, so that's a very important learning as well that you need to follow in as part of the rigor when you sit down and write the article. Okay, and then you would see that in terms of continuity of content, we spoke about it, line to line, from one sentence to another sentence within the paragraph, from one paragraph to another paragraph within a particular section, and from one section to another section. How you end one section and how you start the next section, is there a continuity? Or are they very standalone? If it is very standalone, I don't think your reader or listener is going to appreciate. For example, we talked about the 4 basic rules at the beginning. Somewhere you will lose the direction of your reader. Okay, so that's, you would see both a smile and a sad emoji in this slide because I've had both the experiences, souring and soaring. And then you focus specifically on qualitative methodology, especially if you're doing on interdisciplinarity work. I'm sure a lot of depth would have been covered in day 2 session. Whenever you do interdisciplinary work, you have to focus a lot on methodology, and you have to discuss a lot on that in your research article. Okay. Moving on, we will do one exercise where I've tried to pull down section headings of 4 of my papers, where what we are going to put is a smiley or a sorry emoji. And for each of those contents. Okay, so as always, what you can do is you can say for the first abstract, smiley, you can say, and then second is sad, you can say. Okay, and of course I have my own view about it. Okay? So there is no right or wrong answer. Okay, so this is the content headings. Obviously, because we cannot go through a lot of other aspects of my research paper, So as part of this activity, I've just pulled down certain, a screenshot of the contents, headings. You would give this a smiley or a sad emoji for this content. Take your time and read it. Maybe worth spending a few minutes here. Mohana Priya says smiley. Okay, I think 4 or 5 responses where I think Rakesh responded well. He put a smiley icon. There you go. Okay, what I think is this is a smiley icon for a simple reason, not because, I think I liked it, but actually it was a paper which was accepted. If you were sharp enough, in the first exercise, you would have seen the title, I think 6th title or something, Creator, Creation, Causality. So this is that particular paper from that heading. So this is definitely a smiley because it was accepted. Dr. Babu, I think it will be visible once I close the chat box, sir. I think you should be able to see it now. Okay, and then we will go to the second one. What about this? What about the second one? Smiley or a sad emoji? I think Rakesh has responded. Anyone else? Gatyayani ma'am, because I'm opening the chat box, I'm, maybe others are unable to see. You can probably, see the chat box and probably, quickly. A lot of responses are smiley or sad emoji for this activity, ma'am.
Yeah, I'll just read that.
Yes.
Many of them have given it for sad, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think I feel very sad. I feel very sad. Of course, yes, it is a sad emoji, but I feel very good because you all got that right. Okay. Yeah. So this was a conference paper. It was rejected. And a very interesting reason I got. This was a paper from one of the journals in the US. They thought somehow the Indian English was not good enough, I think. Okay. But anyway, so I said, because my first language is not English, there is only a certain limit that I could go. I cannot go beyond that. So I left it there. Okay. I took it as a learning and moved on. We will go to the third one. Third abstract, headings. Is it smiley or a sad emoji?
So they say it is little blurred, the image.
Is it?
Yeah. Even I can feel the same on my screen.
Okay, sorry, maybe because I'm trying to
read it out, sir, if it's possible.
No, hold on. I will try to expand it. Sorry. Okay, and I will do is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay. I increase the size of the image.
Yeah.
Okay, so sad or smiley for this?
Smiley.
Okay, almost all the responses have come in. Any other response apart from smiley?
No.
Okay, actually, it is a sad image because this is the heading for a paper that went to 3 different journals And all the 3 journals, after multiple revisions, all 3 of them rejected. Okay, I should have actually written 6 papers. Okay, twice I revised for 3 different journals, and I still ended up on the wrong side. Okay, that's how it works. Okay, what about the next one before we conclude on the activity 3? Hope it is visible enough or legible at least. I've tried to increase the image size.
It's they say it's smiley.
Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe
smiley.
they would have seen one without a slideshow. Anyway, you would see in the title, you would see both a sad and smiley, so you can easily average it out. If you find the first one, the next one is easy. It is a smiley because this was my first research paper in July 2018, and this is now part of a chapter book which is released. So definitely smiley. The same headings are there in the book chapter also. Okay, we move on to the 4th section, which is narrative. We are doing better on time now.
Yes.
Okay, as far as narrative is concerned, you would see both a smiley and sad icon. I think I have got both the experience, souring and soaring. And what I would say is, one, is it impactful? Okay, the engaging is probably next for me. One, I would say first preference for me, is it really impactful in terms of why we are doing what we are doing? That is impacting. Okay, if we are not clear why I should be writing on that particular topic, then I don't think anyone else would appreciate it. So that's where the impact is. Okay, and then the next is whether this particular paper, does it have a good literature references? Okay, you would see in towards the last part of the slides, one of the feedback that I got was, yes, the good literatures were referenced for this paper. So I think that is a very important thing that will build your narrative, because it gives a wonderful structure, or a kind of a skeletal structure for your work. And then, of course, clear focus on what the paper seeks to achieve. And then, of course, what I found, which I think is probably something uniquely I've tried with my experiments, and my experiences have been very good with this experiment. I've always try to put some diagram. I somehow squeeze in some diagram into most of the articles that I work on. Even if it is, of course, I'm doing a qualitative interpretivistic research study on Hindu scriptures, but I still somehow put some diagrams into the work. And these diagrams, unlike a typical scientific work, where the diagrams are possible, where I somehow try my best to put some diagram. Okay, and these invariably, any journal, any editor have appreciated these diagrams. So if I have to say anything which is really golden rule of writing, it is this: you express yourself not just in words, but also through art. Okay, and then the another point is, of course, new information or analysis. What is the future research potential? What is the so what, right? For those who have completed the research methodology study with Dr. Shastri sir, he asks this question very often. Oh, sir, I have done this. It is very appreciated by everyone, sir. So he will simply react or respond by saying, so what, Shivram? So what? Okay. So that is the research potential or the impact. So what for the reader or listener? And then the next, the final point, of course, is whether is it having a continuous thread of the core idea. I will try to somehow reflect that core idea in almost every paragraph that I write. Either you complete with that core idea, or complete that sentence or the paragraph with that core idea, or you start with the core idea. So this is something which I found as something very useful. Okay. And another tip that I could give is something which is known, which people can easily relate to. You start with that. Don't start with something new or something unique. Don't start with that. If you start with what people are comfortable reading or listening, and then end with what you are doing something new, the emotional impact that you will have on your reader is very profound. Because you started with something new, then your reader will say, oh, yeah, I know, I think I can relate to that. And then they will say, oh, yeah, I sit. Oh, this is something very new. Okay. And there, when you sit with your reader and the facial expression that you see, I think you can easily see, you can win over that reader, right? So you start, one, of course, you reflect that core idea, and then you start with something known in a particular paragraph or a section, and you complete that particular paragraph with something which is new that you're trying to find out, or a question that you're asking, and you're trying to seek an answer for it, okay? And then we will do a mapping of a picture. So what I've done is I've put some paper titles, 5 paper titles, and I've tried to bring some pictures I've used in that paper. And what we will do as part of this activity 4 is we will do the match the following, which is like a very wonderful exercise that we miss doing, right, from our schools. So we are going to do the map the following. What you have is 5 research titles that I worked on. There are 5 titles, but only 4 pictures. That means one title does not have any picture. So that is step 1. Which is the title which does not have any picture, you think? From this, you can say first title number 1, or you can say number 4 or 3, whatever it is, right? You think your paper title, which highly likely not to have any picture at all in its paper. So Gatyani ma'am, you can probably, tell me how the response is coming.
Yeah.
We will first eliminate the one which does not have a picture before we do the mapping of the rest of the 4 titles with the 4 pictures.
So you mean to say the titles and the picture are on the same slide?
Yes. There are 5 titles, but I have got only 4 pictures. That means one title will not have any picture in the research article. So first is to find out what is the title which is highly likely not to have any picture before we do the mapping of other 4 pictures. Am I clear?
Yes. I think the first one, Suresh Kumar says it's first one.
Okay. I think I dropped enough clues. If you paid attention to what I said, I think it is easy to guess.
One person says it's 2 persons says it's 1, and
Okay.
one telling it's third one and the second one. Third
Okay.
one. The third title, 3 participants have told.
Okay, I think sometimes majority is always correct also. Not always correct, but majority is correct. The answer is the third one. Okay, I do not know, how you guessed it. I'm sure some rationale would have been there to guess. As I said, this was the title which you saw in the activity 1, the 7th title, which was the July 2018 or something. This was my first research paper, which I did not know that this trick of putting picture in your research article. So I missed it out. So that is the odd man out, which does not have any picture because that was my first attempt at research article. Okay, then now we have eliminated the third choice. Now we will look at 4 pictures one by one, and we have to map it to either 1, 2, 4, or 5. It could be tricky because the subject that these pictures deal with are, scriptures, because that's the core of my research work. But you can make some educated guesses. One, 2, 4, or 5, the picture, what you are seeing now. The picture is clear, ma'am, Gatyani ma'am?
Yes, it's clear, sir.
Okay. Before we go look at the other 3 pictures, let us do this mapping first. Any guesses?
One person says it's fourth one.
Okay.
Fifth one. Two persons say it's fifth. 3,
Okay.
5.
It has to be 1, 2, 4, or 5. It cannot be 3 because 3 we eliminated.
Yeah. Four replies for the fifth one, sir.
Okay, I think that is correct. Okay, we will see soon enough. We will keep going to the next few things.
Okay.
But this picture.
Yeah.
What about this picture?
Yeah.
First, no picture is title 3. We eliminated. And then the second picture, we related that Ananda Chakra to the fifth title.
Yeah.
Which is the new normal. And what about this picture?
Three answers for first one, sir. They're telling it should be the first one.
Okay, I think absolutely correct. The previous one is for the fifth one, the new normal. And this one is definitely for virtue ethics and research. That's a very wonderful guess.
6
right?
response.
Okay, wonderful. So we move on to this one. Now we have eliminated what? 1, 3, 5.
2
now
and 4.
I think the choices are narrowing down. 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Very narrowing down now. What is this picture relating to? Which title? 2 or 4?
2.
Okay, 2 is correct.
2 participants, 3 participants say it's 2.
Yeah, 2 is correct. There is no other answer because it is clearly saying creation.
Yeah.
So there is a word creation in that picture. Okay, so one can easily relate it to it. So just imagine the kind of complexity the title brings and the kind of the framework that you have to work with and how you have to squeeze in a diagram. You just imagine. Okay, in this picture, what you see, I have put Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, the 3 guna, whoever knows the subjects, they will probably know. And then I have said creation, sustenance, and dissolution that people can relate to Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, okay, as the Trinity, Hindu Trinity. And you could see the causality, okay, creation, creator, and causality, okay. How complex these topics would be in terms of spiritual discussion and trying to bring them into some kind of a diagram. I think it was tough, but I think it is well worth because this is a paper that got published in that Scopus journal.
Okay.
They really value these diagrams. Okay, this is the final one. I think very, very easy choice because the only one left is 4th. In this picture, there is one interesting story to it. Okay, what you see, the 17 colors, they represent 17 sustainable development goals. Okay, that is available from the UN website. So what I did is I superimposed that image, what is available, with something new, what I've tried to come up with, which is I've tried to map that SDG to 3 different pillars, social, economic, and environmental pillars. And I used our mathematics education from our school. This is the Venn diagram, A union B union C, or A intersection B intersection C. Okay, I use that logic or Venn diagram. Of course, we will try our best to relive what we learned when we were young, right? So this is one of such attempt. So where I have put these 3 different pillars as a Venn diagram, and I put those 17 UN SDG across what I think, whether they are within a social circle or whether they are in a social union economic, or the one which I focus specifically 9.5, which is the 9th SDG, that is actually A intersection B intersection C, that is social, economic, and environment. All the 3 intersect in these 3 goals, 3, 9, and 13, and 17. This diagram was also very well appreciated by people who read this paper. And it is still under editorial review. I've completed 2 levels of editorial revision, and fingers crossed, hopefully it will get published soon. Okay, and we are almost going to the last part of the session, which I think is probably the most important. Okay, novelty. This is a tough question, how to demonstrate novelty or originality. Okay, it baffles all of us, right? So I've put some of my experiences into what I think we can express novelty on. Okay, and here also again you will see both a sad and a smile emoji. That means that I've had a mixed bag of experience. Okay, we are 10 minutes away from our scheduled completion. In the interest of the session, please allow me to extend the session by 15-20 minutes more. And I'm sorry for not planning this well, but I think it is worth spending. So let us try to extend the session. For those who have to miss the last portion, I'm sure you can revisit the recording. Okay, thank you. How to establish novelty? One, you can compare the work with other works in the field. Okay, thereby you can say, oh, this is something novel I'm trying to do. Or the other criteria for establishing novelty is you need to do an exhaustive literature review. The place where I'm at the moment spending a lot of time in my thesis writing is literature review, where I want to be as exhaustive as possible so that I can reflect upon or justify what I think is a novelty in my dissertation. Okay, or the same is true with our research article also, where it can be demonstrated. Almost everywhere you can demonstrate novelty. You can demonstrate novelty in the kind of research question you are asking. In the title you have put, you can put a novelty. You can do novelty in the methodology. Okay, I'm trying my best to demonstrate novelty in almost everywhere in my dissertation and wherever possible in my research articles. Volume of type and volume of data coverage in my research work. Some of the places where people have missed or there is a gap in the literature. So I'm trying to bring some novelty there. And, in your findings, analysis and interpretation of results, implications, how do you present the findings, especially using visual diagrams or visual analytics or graphs, for example, conversion of conference papers into research articles. I put a pie diagram, for example, it is catchy instead of just putting some text, right? So that is also one of the way of expressing novelty, right? And then disproving an accepted notion. And then, of course, even bibliography, you can demonstrate novelty. So there is no end to it. How novelty is actually picked by a lot of papers. As I said in the beginning that, a lot of journals use artificial intelligence engines to look for keywords, okay? And these artificial intelligence are programmed to look for certain words that AI can relate to novelty. Okay, that is where this right word choices and right phrases can demonstrate whether your paper is novel or not. Okay, they are also using natural language processing tools. Okay, and they are using text mining techniques as part of, they means the journals, the publication people, and that's where they are using these tools to identify something novel or not. So ensure that you use right word choices, right phrases, so that you can demonstrate novelty. Okay. If you're stuck with generating ideas for novelty, my tip of the day is relook at your first year assignment. When I say first year, what I mean is we do the intensive research methodology, courses, core paper, RM course, specialization paper 1, 2 in our first year of our research program, where we do a lot of assignments. You go back there and whatever assignments you have worked on, you can develop something novel idea from it and convert them to a research article. Okay. How I fared there, this is like a graphical illustration of how some of my assignments have been converted into research articles or dissertation or thesis chapters, for example. Okay. In my RM course, I completed 4 assignments. All the 4, I've converted them to either of the paper publication or a thesis chapter, either of them. Core paper, my conversion rate is 60, and my specialization papers, conversion of assignments to a thesis chapter or a publication, that conversion is around 80%. So if you can score 80% across all the 4, then we are very good. Okay, I missed this. I didn't know this. I missed it. But I will still strive to improve that 60% in core paper by working on some new research articles in the immediate future. Okay, so this is one of the technique that I think you should use. Okay, what we will try to do is, these are the 9 papers that I had an opportunity to write for our Thinklet, which is our intra-university research magazine. So we will try and see whether these titles, do they reflect novelty? Okay, we will try and see whether the novelty, in terms of novelty, yes, emoji, smiley, or a sad emoji, no, or it's a mixed bag, either are kind of a, okay. So we will try this exercise, activity 5, before we move towards conclusion. You can say number 1, smiley, that means that title is reflecting novelty. Or you can say 5th title is reflecting novelty. 6th is reflecting both novelty and a sad emoji. Or 8th is reflecting a sad emoji. You can do whatever you think is appropriate. And I will give my view, my rating of these 9 papers, titles. Gatyayani ma'am, you can probably let me know as and when responses come by.
Yes, sir.
These are 9 research titles that were published as papers, 1 or 2 page papers in Thinklet, which is an intra-university magazine at Jain. Only by writing you immortalize yourself. That's where we started. I think it is true, right? Any responses yet?
Not yet, sir.
Okay. Maybe in the interest of time, so that we have some Q&A, I will try to give my own version of it. Okay, the 7th title to me is like a smiley, because to me that represents novelty, because it is talking about Cosmos, which is like a book, Chernobyl, which is like a the nuclear disaster that happened, and it was also a dramatized program, that dramatized web series that came in Disney Hotstar. Contact is a novel, also a movie that came about alien contact. And then Carl Sagan, a cosmologist, American astronomer. Charles Darwin, we know who Charles Darwin is. No, to me, novel, because you had a scientist, and you had web series, and you have a book, you have a movie title, all of them put together. What is the lesson that you can learn? And then I also used 5 C's that I thought is something novel, right? So that's why a smiley. And to me, replicability in research, as I said, you remember the first title where we saw suicide risk and social media, lifeline or a landmine, some question in that. So that's a very catchy title, or a novel title. So to me, in that sense, this 8 was a novel title. And the 4 R's of research career is like a mixed bag. It is a bit novel, a bit boring. So it's both smiley and a sad emoji. And the same holds good with number 6, diversity, scientific innovation and career. Connecting the who, what, and why of research. It is a mixed bag. These are what I think, okay? Others, I would not even bother to comment. I think others are probably a bit boring, I think. Even worth saying a sad or a smiley emoji, okay? Publish and progress. You would hear a lot of this phrase, publish or perish. That I changed it to publish and progress. Instead of giving a negative tone to it, publish or perish, I wanted to look at something positive. So I said publish and progress. Okay. So to me, that also is a novel title. Okay. As I said, novelty, there is no, it's the possibilities are infinite. Okay. I will give you another example of novelty where I participated in the cultural program of research retreat that we have at Jain University in 2018, where I tried to do a novel, attempt where I tried to link James Bond movie titles with my experiences on my research. Okay, you will see all the bold items or the movie titles. I've tried my level best to more or less use the same sequence of James Bond movie titles, except the last one, the Quantum of Solace. That movie, which is in the last line, is actually immediately after Casino Royale movie, but I used it towards the last. This is one poetry attempt I made, I would say. So this is like, as I said, the rule number one, we try to learn to think extraordinarily about ordinary things. This is one of the demonstration of that novelty. Just an attempt, I would say. One thing which I liked, in this is, which we all can relate to. I don't want to be the man with the golden gun. That's one of the movie, but with a golden pen. We all need that golden pen so that we are successful in our research writing, right? We move on. Another important slide, I think, a few slides before we conclude, the nuts and bolts of research writing. Okay, so far we have seen title, abstract, rigor, narrative, and novelty. And this, I think, is also important for us to know. That's why I've put this in, the nuts and bolts of research. Here in this slide, we are going to look at some basic metrics. We are not going to talk about the publication related metrics like a journal impact factor and all of that, citation index. No. I think you must have heard this yesterday. Probably you might hear this tomorrow as well. So we're not going to talk about all of that metrics, but something different. Words count. How much words you can write your article. Check what your publisher says. Also check with them whether the word count includes or excludes references or bibliography or abstract, etc., so that you try to stick to your word count. Some places in some of my articles, I have stuck to the word count, and some places I have missed them. Okay, so word count is the first metrics. And percentage of unique words used. This is another metric which we follow. Just a minute. What are those unique words? Because these are less, you have not repeated the same word too many times. That is, we call it as a vocabulary diversity. How good is your research article, research paper with regard to this vocabulary diversity? If the more you are lesser on vocabulary diversity, it means you have used a lot of words repetitively. Okay, to try to have a very high score on vocabulary diversity. I will also show you how much I've scored in each of these metrics to give you some idea. And percentage of rare words used. One is vocabulary diversity. The next is the depth of vocabulary. Okay, where people use 5,000 most common words. Are you only using them, or you are using some words which are very rare and rare in terms of they're not common words, right? So that is another metric that you can follow. What is the word and the sentence length? As I said, there is no real sweet spot. Okay, and but ideally it's important to have a very well balanced length. Okay, this is also somewhere I think sometimes I make a mistake of making too many words in a particular sentence, and I really stretch that sentence so much with some commas, etc. And then for a reader to understand, it's very difficult. Actually, I become a victim of my own writing. Actually, right? So you try to balance it out. Okay, and then we also say it as a readability score. The more you score on a readability score, the better anyone can, even for example, a college student can understand. The lower you are, that means only an expert audience can understand your article. Okay. Zero compromise on plagiarism, of course. Originality score, zero compromise, 0% plagiarism. You can say 2%, 3%, but I think it is important to look at 0% plagiarism. That means 100% originality. Reading and speaking time. Another thing that I do is I read my articles many times. and I figure out where I get stuck or where I'm confused, where I mumble words, that means my writing is having some problem. I need to change. And then I also note my speaking time. The more time I'm taking, that means the more complex words I've used or more punctuations I've used, that means that brain is thinking what I'm trying to say with some commas, etc., or colons. Okay, so you do this exercise, read and speaking time, and if you do not like what you're reading, I don't think your readers would like either, right? So that's another thing. One more interesting tip I can give on that read and speaking time is what I call it as a lap formula. Do as many laps as possible. When you read what you have written, you will understand whether is it lucid, you will understand whether is it appealing or is it precise. Okay, that I call it as a lap. Do many laps, as many laps as possible. Someone who likes car driving will appreciate the laps. So as many laps as possible to ensure that you've got that article as best as possible. Okay, these are some of the metrics that I think is important, nuts and bolts of research and writing. So how I fare in the percentage of unique words used, I fare almost around 40-50%. And I think there is a scope for improvement, obviously. Unfortunately, this use of article, right, a and the, that takes a lot of space and reduce our vocabulary diversity, and we can't have an option. You have to use the articles, right, for it to be a sensible grammar. And then the percentage of rare words used, I have around 40-50%, and words length 6, and my sentence length have gone from 17 to 35. 35 to me is actually quite high. You know, there are 35 words for you to read that entire sentence. Okay, that's a lot. And if you have a lot of repeat words or, you know, less unique words or a lot of rare words in that sentence, imagine you will lose the concentration of your reader. Very, very clear. I think that's one metric I have to really improvise on. Okay, readability score, I think I have, you know, between 15 to 25. That means, you know, I am, you know, neither a college student can easily read my work, nor unless you are a domain expert, you will find it a bit difficult to read my work. That is another area where I have to improvise on. But one thing I have been very particular about is plagiarism. If I get 1%, I will change my work. Again, wherever that plagiarism is there, I will change that work. I will not stop making changes until I hit that 100% originality. Zero compromise whatsoever, whether paper is accepted or rejected. This particular thing, no negotiation. Okay, and I obviously have invested on a software that will help me find out all these metrics. You can see if there, you can probably find out even, you don't have to really invest on money. For example, there is one software which is called as a paper rater. Okay, you can try that. It is online. There are premium features in it. There are also basic features. You can use basic features to get some idea. Okay, so some of these tools will be very useful for us to understand some of these metrics, because these are all important from a context of making a formal publication with a journal. So that's why it's important to pay attention to them. Okay. Another key element to this research writing is how do we respond to the review feedback? Okay, I will give you 2 review feedbacks for you to read quickly. We have already crossed 7 minutes. Sorry again. We will look at these feedback. This was one of the feedback. Paper has a very clear focus and brought forth intricate arguments of the core hypothesis. And it also says that there is a decent grip on the literature. The illustrations are quite picturesque. A lot of new information is given, so novelty. But read the last part of the feedback. However, the discussion could be more lucid, better interwoven. Otherwise, it is kind of looking, everywhere, right? It is thrown everywhere, scattered. Okay, so that means there is not a continuous thread of the central idea. Okay, so when I got this first revision editorial feedback, then I worked on it and I ensured that I took it positively. Of course, we have to respond positively with a positive emotion. And I ensured that every paragraph in that entire research article, which is around 7,000 words actually, that there is a continuity from one paragraph to another paragraph, from one section to another section. I think so far it has gone into good feedback, and I'm still waiting for editorial, final comments from the editor, whether it is going through or not. But see, some of this publication, there is a lot of time involved in the process. So we have to be patient and be positively patient. Okay. And another example is this, which was the article which got rejected thrice by 3 different journals, right? You just see this, the feedback that I received, that there is a lot marketing statement because it is unscientific. Is it really valid for not examining? I don't think this is credible. I'm just reading out the feedback. There is no transition between the following idea and the one that precedes it. So there is no continuity. What is this case? I made some reference to a case, but I did not explain. What are these linguistic and scientific expression? I didn't bother to explain them. Nature of Brahm, what is it? How is it relevant to the previous paragraph? This paragraph provides opinions rather than facts. Okay. Of course, the immediate emotional response when you get such feedback is, oh my God, I took so much time to, to come up with this, so much of efforts. But the editorial feedback is really so disheartening. Okay, but that's okay. But I think it is important to move away from that immediate initial emotional response and then start looking at it very positively and work through it. Okay, I took it positively. I worked through it, and then it came back again, rejected. The second review feedback, quite a bit of them were still there, and then third time I tried. But then I said, I will give up because I'm spending far too much time on this single paper. Then I think I should move on. Okay. I just kept away that paper. I started working on another research article altogether. Okay. Sometimes it happens. Okay. Before we close, this is my closing thought. Okay. As a writer, do not judge you. Try to understand what you have written. If you do this, then you are trying to think from a reader's perspective. Okay. I think with that, I would formally close our session, but we will move ahead with our, question answer session for another 15-20 minutes or so.
Yes, sir. So I'll read out the questions for you.
Yes.
So one thing, the first participant we got is, she or he is so inspired and motivated that she wants to start the research work immediately. So I think she was very inspired by your talk.
Of course, immortalize yourself in knowledge contribution. Definitely, yes. Go for it.
Yeah. And the second participant, she says it was a novel way of involving the participants in this research activity. We like, I think when you involved in that when you gave us the activity, I think they liked it very much.
Hopefully, yeah.
And one participant says that they are very happy about the matrices that you have applied for your research writing. So they are very happy about it. And one question is, can you give us a list of good journals on humanities where we can publish our research articles?
Okay, I think I thought probably you would ask me some simple question on a Thursday evening, but that's okay. That's a tough question for me to take up. Okay, so I think what I would do is one is, of course, one source for us is UGC list of CAD, UGC CAD list of journals, where you can actually pick up the humanities. Then it will throw up the list of humanities related journals. And then you can also look for some Scopus Index journal. When you go there, you can actually look for some, humanities, etc. But then other thing I could also say is you could also download some, apps or subscribe to some newsletters, which is around research work that will help you in terms of finding out what journal could be useful. But the humanities, again, is a pretty broad field, right? So we need to be very specific in terms of what is it that we want to go towards humanity, right? If we're doing an interdisciplinary article, or we are looking only at a literature article. So this, what I would say is possibilities are, numerous, but the thought process or imagination must start from us. So from that, you could actually navigate through what is a good list of journal. Sorry, I can't give you any better answer than that.
Yeah, maybe yesterday what Madam was telling, I'll just add one more link
Sure,
to
please.
it. One is UGCK journal, second is Scopus, and then the Web of Science.
Yep, sure.
Yeah,
There you go.
that's for the participants.
Any other question?
Questions, not many, sir. Okay, there's one. Yeah, there's one question. I'll read it out for you.
Yeah.
Okay, sir, I'm very intrigued by your interest in Sanskrit research. Not so relative question, but can you please let me know the meaning of word?
Meaning of word what?
I do. It's a Sanskrit word. Gamadhanu Hari Varakela Kuttai
Okay.
Rati and Shathairati.
Okay, not so. That's a tough question for me. Right? Okay, see, what I know is, what I can tell you is, I obviously do not have an direct answer for your question, Manojji. But what I can tell you is, like many languages, Sanskrit words have a lot of meanings. Okay, for example, your meaning that you often relate to hell in Sanskrit, okay, that same word also means heaven. The same word means heaven, also hell. Okay, in this complexity, so the meaning of a word in Sanskrit, or probably any language, I think, depends very much on the context you are using. Okay, so unless we know the context, it is very difficult to understand what it means. You cannot just like that translate. We cannot just translate a word from one language to another language unless we know the context in which it is spoken. This is one problem that we often see. For example, those who are in the doing media research, and of course we have a lot of English experts here. You will often see that we make an impression about a public news based on the newspaper that we read or the news channel that we hear or see. That may not necessarily be true. Okay, because sometimes it so happens that a particular news item might skip that context altogether. Okay, and if you miss that context and see, you would have a different inference from that news item. And this is a problem that we are seeing during COVID times. There is a lot of misinformation in, say, WhatsApp or social media, or even a lot of panic creating news that are being spread. So one has to look these news in a certain context. Without a context, you would lose the meaning altogether. For example, one of my friend yesterday was sharing some numbers. Oh, these are the numbers of infected people in a particular thing, in a particular state. That's very alarming. I said, yeah, forget about it, right? The numbers will keep changing. So do not look for a meaning without a context. That's the maximum I could try now. Any other question, please? Hello, am I audible?
This participant wants to know list of good journals.
Yeah, I think that's a difficult question. It's a bit difficult to figure that out.
Okay, and Manoj sir, he wants to respond saying that thank you for replying. I'm actually writing a blog on a shloka I found, and these are the words for the same.
Okay, so see, okay, I think I will quickly react before we could take up the next question, ma'am. This particular shloka, any shloka, the problem with a lot of blogs that are using shloka is more often than not, they miss to provide a source of that shloka where it is coming from. It is important to understand the source of the shloka. Okay, number one. Number two is we cannot take out some words from the shloka and try to find a meaning of it. Okay, if I just say mrityorma amurtam gamaya without giving the context of that shloka, or without saying from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, it is very difficult to understand that word. Why that shloka is there, first of all, in that Upanishad is very difficult to explain. Okay, and without that explanation, it is really difficult to write that blog. So one, of course, what I would suggest you is one, what is the context in which it was written, the shloka, from where it is sourced. And number two, what is that contemporary contextual meaning I am deriving out of that shloka? That is how I would do if I were you. Anything else, ma'am? Any other question?
I think that's it, sir.
Okay, can anyone, 1 or 2 minutes, if anyone want to say something, whoever is available, can they unmute and say? Sometimes, too much of texting is a bit boring, right? Do you accept that? Do you allow that?
Actually, no, sir. Manoj Kumar
really?
wants to speak. I think we'll have to, Manoj, just give us a minute.
No problem, ma'am. I mean, I'm just requesting, but we will stick to the rules that you have set.
1 minute, sir. I think I need to tell the organizers to allow him to unmute and speak.
Oh, really? Okay. Sorry, ma'am, for putting you on the spot.
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
Akhila, ma'am. Manoj Kumar wants to speak. Can you?
Yes, ma'am. One moment. I'm trying.
And for everyone who have given a good complimentary feedback, my sincere thanks. And whoever has given a critical feedback, my double thanks to you. Critical feedback helps
Manoj,
you learn.
sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry to
Yes.
interrupt. Manoj, you can speak.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. The session was wonderful, sir. I am an undergraduate student who is attending this section because I am interested in English literature and Sanskrit especially.
Okay.
And the words I told you were from a shloka. It is a Pratas Marami shloka of Devi Mukambika. And it's like morning prayer. So
Sure. Okay.
I found most of the meaning about it. Just few words which I cannot find anywhere. That's why.
No problem. So what I suggest is I'm giving you my WhatsApp number. Okay. So you can ping me in this number and I will see how best I could be of some help to you.
Okay, sir.
You
Thank
could see
you.
this is my WhatsApp number. So I will see.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'm not familiar with that shloka, so I don't know. So pardon me for that.
Sure. Thank you very much.
I could see Two people have raised their hands. Any other question, ma'am?
No, yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Do you want to end the session, or we will wait for 1 or 2 minutes for people to come back?
They in the feedback, it's a chat box. They're telling it's an excellent session. It was the most productive session, a bunch of most productive session, very informative for such a wonderful session. And I think this was Manoj Kumar who said, "Thank you, sir, for replying my question."
Yep.
Yeah, this, I think one person, sir, will you help us with one more session focusing on research methodology for the beginners? Okay.
Sure. I'm always, happy to share what I have learned. And the more we share once we exchange our knowledge, what we have had an opportunity to learn, and our learning process becomes much more better, right? I'm definitely happy to, do.
Yes. So,
what little I know.
Yes, sir. So one participant says it's a wonderful session, sir. This surely will help me in my future research. And one question, I think I missed it out. Sorry for this. Is there any limitation for the keywords in the abstract?
Normally, there is no limitation, but you can't really put too much. Normally they do 4 to 6 keywords. Okay. And as I said, the keywords, how much they are in tune with the title and how much they are in tune with the abstract. That's how I put the keyword, especially the first sentence and last sentence of the abstract and the title.
Yeah. So they say it's very enriching presentation.
Okay, ma'am, one moment. There is a participant named Dia who wants to speak.
Yeah.
Dia, if you can hear my voice, you can unmute yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, Dia.
Yeah. I'm Dr. Dia Panchwani, and I'm working with one engineering college. I did my MA and PhD in literature. So I'm finding kind of difficulty in finding out the journals. I have a couple of papers ready, but I want to know what are the good journals, and I need the list of good journals.
Sure, ma'am. Sure. Thanks for attending the session and also coming up with a question. But unfortunately, you came up with a tough question for me. Okay, I am really not sure about the list of journals, as I think many of our other workshop speakers have said. One, of course, you can go to the list from the UGC CARE and of course look at the Scopus and Web of Science. But what I would suggest, ma'am, is what I normally do is first I fix the journal and then I start everything from title, abstract, everything. Okay. I normally do not write a paper and find a journal because I find it a bit difficult for me to do that way. Of course, each and every individual can have their own style of working, but personally I have always found it very easy if I fix the journal and start writing for them instead of other way. Right? It's like a classic question that music directors get asked. Will you play music for a cinema based on the lyrics you are given, or you first do the music and then you write the lyrics? It's a very difficult question to answer, actually.
Yeah, actually, then we have to go through the objects and know everything, and then creating ID. And I'm putting a lot of my efforts and time actually in doing this thing, creating passwords, IDs, and then sometimes I'm unable to do it, and then it's very time consuming thing to search which journal has meeting my objective, the nature of my article should meet the objective of the paper, of the journal, I mean. So that is a little laborious task and a little time consuming also. So I thought like,
No
just
problem.
to make my work easy, I thought like I'll take your help.
No problem, ma'am. I think you have a valid problem, and all of us face the same problem. But only one difference in that approach, what I would give is, I will not want to do anything easy. For a simple reason is because if the moment you get the list of journals, that's the objective achieved, right? But you will miss the thrill of the journey itself. But actually, it is not about the arrival at the destination, but the journey. So what I normally like is, I want to go through that process. I want to put myself through the journey, because that, for example, last 5 years in research, that journey is so interesting. I'm sure it'll be more thrilling than actually getting that coveted PhD itself.
Yeah,
So
correct.
I would not
That's
want to
true,
take
sir.
the thrill away from you. So please do your search, is what I would say, ma'am.
Yeah, sure, sir, sure. It was really enthusiastic to see your enthusiasm. I'm really motivated, sir. Thank you so
Sure.
much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Any other?
It was very, very enthusiastic, very, very motivating speech, I should say there. I think your speech today, we saw a lot of creativity, and there was so much of innovativeness in your presentation, starting from the title, abstract, ROL, rigor writing, and then novelty, and then the nuts and the bolts. So you spoke about all these things, and of course the basic metrics, which you asked us to actually go through that rigorously, and you systematically led us through the experiences on your talk today, writing about soaring experiences about the research writing. So you spoke even about the lapses, and metrics, and the nuts and bolts of the research writing. And the best part, which I liked, was the response which you received from the review committee, and the way you went about it, and how you soaring. So I think you really did that physically, soaring high up to the sky. So it was a wonderful session, sir. I think it was very useful for many of the research scholars. So I think thank you so much, sir. I'll ask
Thank you.
Akhila ma'am
And
to. Akhila ma'am.
thank you.
Yeah, we'll have a formal vote of thanks, sir.
Good evening, dear participants and the resource person. Indeed, Sir, Katyani ma'am has very well summed up the session. And for yourself also, you saw like how participants exactly, engaged in the activities that you gave them. Thank you for making it a very lively and engaging session. And it was very informative, activity based, and it was a very different experience for them, where it's only like one-way lecture. Okay, you made it a very different one. We are so thankful that you actually made it a very lively and engaging session. I'd like to express my gratitude to the esteemed resource person, Mr. Shivaram Shivasubramanian, who has given us an insightful session, which was so precise and activity-based and engaging. I wholeheartedly thank the Chief Patron, Dr. Chandra Rochan and Sri Ravindra Bhandari ji for their support in our endeavors. Special thanks goes out to the patrons, Dr. N. Sundar Rajan, Pro-Chancellor, and Dr. Ishwaran Iyer, Pro-Vice-Chancellor of Jain deemed to be University, for their encouragement and guidance. I extend my gratitude to our principal, who has been a pivotal force in all our efforts to make this workshop a success. I also thank the technical support extended to us by our colleagues, Dr. M.P. Saravanan sir and Professor Shruti, the student volunteers who have made the brochure and also circulating the mails with the links and posting the feedback forms, all the back-end work. Thank you, student volunteers, for that. And also our very actively participated audience. You have really been, the force behind, we too, enjoying the session like this. Other than your lively and active response, the session would have been very, very boring. Thank you so much, the esteemed audience, for your active participation. Hope it would continue for the next day also, that is tomorrow being the last day of the 5-day workshop duration. We would have Dr. S.N. Sri Kirti from the Bangalore University, who is also throwing some light on the research writing, kinds of research writing and the ways. And I expect the same enthusiasm or even more to be shown for his session also. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.